Oh yeah, if you build it, they will. If you
build it, Nigel will come.
Nigel will come. So I've heard.
Hello, you are listening to Off Radar. It's a movie podcast. I'm James Smith, a professional film and video editor.
I'm James Eatock, a freelance writer and illustrator specialising in 1980s cartoons.
And I'm Neil Brock, aka Nige, the man with two names, former film journalist and currently working in the games industry.
Each week, one of us picks a movie that all three of us either haven't seen in many years or in some cases haven't seen at all.
We each watch the chosen movie, return to the microphone and let you all know exactly what we thought of it.
I'd never really had any interest in watching it and I was proved absolutely right.
I think it's amazing. I really, really love this film.
The film's still a pile of steaming dog shit.
If you fancy joining in and suggesting a movie for us to watch, why not tweet us at Off Radar Podcast
or email us on offradarpod@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please subscribe, share, and by all means, leave a review.
For now, strap in, turn the volume up, and let's go Off Radar. Hello, and welcome back to Off Radar. I'm James Smith, and with as always is James Eatock.
Hello, I'm with you.
With me, and also with us is Neil Brock.
I want to suck your blood again.
Oh, I like it. I like
the double suckage.
There's another pause, a dramatic pause after suck again as well. Who we call Nige. Today we are I guess this is kind of like the second part of our Halloween special, although Halloween has been and gone, because we are doing a film called Nosferatu, which came out in 2024, also recommended by the person who did recommend Bram Stoker's Dracula, which we did last time, Mark Fairless.
Fairless recommended this as well.
A double header. So
double Fairless.
Jeez. Double Fairless. So he wanted us to do a few comparisons, which I guess straight from the off, we probably will kind of naturally compare it. So if you haven't seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, I don't think it matters for this, but
no.
Yeah, we will maybe just compare a little bit.
But go back and listen to our Bram Stoker.
Yeah. Please do.
Overlay it over the top of this, and there's a secret hidden message.
But
the Beatles are dead.
Yes. Not the band. Not all of them anyway, most of them are. First up, before doing it for this very podcast, had we seen this film? Eatock?
No.
Nige?
No.
Oh, neither had I. So this is it's quite rare,
were
actually.
No.
Much like Dracula, we were virgins to this.
Nosferatu, which I might have said on the previous podcast, was based on Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, which was a film that came out in 1922, which I studied in film studies, which was basically like a German expressionist film, which was a really interesting film back then. And this is a remake of that. And I guess it's pretty... After we've just done Dracula, it's like when you look at the story for this, you're like, oh, well, why is it called Nosferatu and stuff? And I think like at the time they basically just didn't have the copyright to do Dracula and the same names and all of that, so they basically changed it and made an unofficial Dracula story. But it's pretty much mirrored the whole thing, which is why he's called, Count Orlok and Nosferatu, and it's set in Germany rather than London from memory.
Well, because obviously it's like Romania as well, isn't it? Obviously, yeah, but the fact they travel to Germany, the major city, as opposed to London, and pretty much every character can kind of be pulled out and replaced by just a different name person.
And if you know the Dracula story, the Bram Stoker's Dracula, then it's pretty evident that this is basically. It's weird because it is basically the same story-wise. But this film, 2024, so not long ago, written and directed by Robert Eggers. I wouldn't say I've seen a lot of his work, but I've heard of quite a lot of his work. So The Witch.
Give me one title.
Well, a lot of the people in this film are also in some of his other films. So The Lighthouse with William Dafoe, The Northman Anna Taylor-Joy's in that. The Witch, Finchy, who's in this. What's his real name?
Yeah, it was huge as well, The Witch, when that first
Witch.
came out. Yeah, it was like one of those films that everyone was talking about. And
the trailer was amazing, from memory.
Yeah, and he's kind of got this reputation now, and he's doing Werewolf after this as well, apparently.
Okay.
So he's obviously he's not afraid to do things a little bit differently. He obviously likes doing horror, doesn't mind doing like black and white. All of The Lighthouse was black and white, for instance. Is obviously, well, as we'll get into, there's black and white moments in this film as well. I feel like he's got a very distinct style, which is obviously encouraging people to work with him. And he writes all his own stuff as well. Obviously, this is an adaptation. I think a lot of them are adaptations of almost like older stories or almost like wives' tales, that kind of thing. So it's quite interesting what he's done.
Yeah, absolutely. And using this, I think we talked about this in previous podcasts as well, using the same cast members throughout all of his films as well. You know, like Anna Taylor-Joy is also in The Witch and The Northman. Willem Dafoe pops up in this. And, you know, like not always like centre stars, but yeah, interesting that he...
Well, she was diving into a very bit of early trivia. She was originally cast in this as well, but eventually had to drop out to do the sort of Mad Max prequel, Feroza, whatever it was called, that she did, and that's why it all changed who was playing the main roles in this.
I was wondering why Smith kept saying Anna. I was like, she's not in this film, is she? So she's not in this film.
No, but she is in a lot of films with this director.
Right, okay.
She would have been in this film had the timeline kind of matched up a bit better.
But she did, yeah, Furiosa.
And starring, so as Nosferatu, I don't think you'd recognise him unless you know.
No, not at all.
It's Bill Skarsgård, who we spoke about really quite recently in Barbarian. Nicholas Hoult, who you may well remember from About a Boy as a kid. And I watched him in a film at the weekend called The Menu.
He's always really
Very
good. I always like when you see actors like him and certain others who you've seen start off so young, and you think
like Jamie Bell.
Jamie Bell's a good one, but like you think of someone like Haley Joel Osment, it's like, what an amazing little dude, and then his career just doesn't go the way it plans. But Nicholas Hoult, when you look at his career, it's like he did a film, then he did Skins, a couple of series of that, which he was great in.
He was brilliant in Skins.
Horrific character in that, like great series.
See, I never saw an episode of Skins.
It was terribly advertised because it put people like me off. I was just like, this isn't for me. Then I went and watched it, and I was like, this is.
I watched it about 10 years ago, and I was like, man, this is so good. But I think I lost interest, towards the end.
After the second series, they changed up the cast. It was one of these things they were going to do every 2 series. They'd change up the cast, but yeah, he's in there, and then he went on to like. He's one of these people who just, it's Nicholas Hoult again. I didn't know he was in this film. I didn't know the cast. So when I
just going through some of his films, like he did A Single Man, he did X-Men First Class, where he obviously played the Beast. And then he did, we just mentioned ever briefly then, obviously the Mad Max prequel. He was in Mad Max Fury Road. He had a very prominent role in that as well.
He did.
Did Warm Bodies, which was kind of like a zombie-based film.
That.
Was in The Favourite. Smith just mentioned The Menu. Did Juror Number 2 with Clint Eastwood quite recently. Also did a film called Renfield with Nicolas Cage quite recently, which is another vampire film.
That is, yeah.
And it's quite interesting how these two kind of align, but they have very, very, very different films. I would say Renfield's more like a horror comedy, whilst this is obviously a more traditional classic horror, you would almost call it. And he's also been Lex Luthor in the most recent version of Superman version 216.
Yeah, he's got such a good look about him. His eyes and his screen presence.
What I like about him as an actor is just one of those that it's like, it's Nicholas Hoult, but he just kind of envelops the role.
Also in this film, Lily-Rose Depp, who
I didn't recognise.
No,
I was sitting there watching it, going, I know her from somewhere. And obviously she hasn't had, like, I would say, a lengthy career, but she was in
what's she been in?
She was in a great Kevin Smith movie, and by great I mean shite, called Moose.
I don't think I've seen anything of hers.
She was in Tusk.
Not Tusk. Yeah, she was in Tusk.
Well, she was in Tusk, but yeah.
She was briefly in Tusk, but then she and Kevin Smith's daughter were in a film called
Yoga Hosers.
Oh my God. So yeah, she's in Maybe we should do that one day. One of Kevin Smith's glittering career highlights.
That made $38,000 at the box office, so it must be good.
There you go.
And interestingly, she is in what you just said, the new one, Werewolf. As well. So he's bringing her back into that. But I guess the Depp gives it away, but that's obviously Johnny Depp's daughter.
And the daughter of Vanessa Paradis, which I'm always like, oh, Vanessa Paradis. Je ne taxi, or whatever.
I have no idea who that is.
No, I don't
know Vanessa Paradis. Oh my God. I suppose it's showing my age.
I was just nodding along there. But yeah. Also, Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I guess some more kind of supporting cast now. But Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Emma Corrin, and Willem Dafoe he seems to pop up in lots of these sort of films actually over the
he's in that
years.
a film that he's doing as well. So Dafoe, and so is Aaron Taylor-Johnson, in fact. So again, that auteur theory of keeping the same cast moving forward, he's very much doing.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe, he teams up with directors like he has done with Yorgos Thingy, who we did for Poor Things. I think he's in pretty much all of his films as well.
I always love Willem Dafoe on screen. It's just even if he's in like a bit of a B movie or a bit of a pony movie, it's just like, no, but it's Willem Dafoe.
He's quite happy with 10 minutes of screen time, isn't he? And he
Wes Anderson films as well. Like he can turn his hand to anything almost. So yeah, and like as you say, once he finds a director he enjoys working with, it seems like people keep him in it. And I think I mentioned in the last podcast, he's also in I think it's called Shadow of a Vampire, a film that is a horror film that is based on the original making of 2020 Nosferatu, where one of the characters, like where Max Schreck, the actor, plays Nosferatu, but it turns out Max Schreck is just his alias name for being Count Orlok, which is obviously Nosferatu himself. So. Yeah,
very cool. I need to watch that.
That's another crossover. I have done a synopsis, and here it is.
I'm excited. Go.
1800s Germany. A young girl, Ellen, forges an unwitting psychic link with a dark being. Some 30 years later, Ellen lives with her husband Thomas, who receives a contract to persuade Count Orlok to buy a manor house and travels to see him. On his travels, he is warned by the local Romanian gypsies not to dare go to the castle. Whilst staying in the wilderness, he witnesses a body being exhumed and a stake being driven through his heart. Despite that, he carries on. He meets... that sounded a bit...
I'll just crack on, son, yeah.
He meets the eerie, sinister Count Orlok and begins to grow weaker each night without understanding why. Meanwhile, Ellen's dreams intensify, the same cold shadow creeping closer, whispering her name.
Come to me. Come to me.
So yeah, I guess the start of this film, I guess the style we spoke about with Bram Stoker's right at the off for the last episode, and I think it feels fitting to me that we start with the style of this one, because it's so kind of cold right from the off. So we see this lady saying, come to me, and we see her kind of getting almost like haunted. And you get these like light blue colours and the shadow of what we then, find out to be Nosferatu and the window.
I thought, the film starts off like setting a tone with the studio logos, which are all kind of very 1920s in style.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
It does feel like such a traditional classic horror. I know I said that earlier, but that was definitely the take that I took from sort of watching the first period of it, because again it kind of blips between showing in sort of colour, but even then the colours almost appear kind of like washed out and that kind of older style, and then it sort of into some of the kind of more impactful bits with Orlok when it goes black and white, and there's some really interesting stylistic choices. Like I know it's the same for obviously Bram Stoker's, which was seen as like quite remarkable for the time it came out, but there was one bit in particular when it kind of the camera zooms in to like not the beehive, but kind of like how her hair is tied up on the back of her head, and it's almost like, did they just forget to stop filming or something? And I noticed they did that in Bram Stoker's Dracula, where sometimes they would just zoom in on other things, it'd be like the dissolve or the fade or whatever into something else, and it really does have that kind of like prim and proper but also kind of sinister feel to it from very early on.
Not to get my film studies hat on, but the style of it at times, kind of like what you're talking about there, Nige, is kind of like very Brian De Palma-esque, where it's sort of like, the camera's going to do something, and it's going to be used in a very unique way, or like you say, hold on a take too long, or take our vision, like our field of vision, somewhere else. A skilled director would do that.
It's almost trying to make you feel uncomfortable there.
Yeah, agreed.
That sort of way. Yeah.
Definitely, and I think it achieves that in both style
so.
and also what follows with the story. But I think the other thing that we set up in the original Dracula story is in Bram Stoker's Dracula is obviously it's set in London, as in like obviously apart from Romania, and we talked about how amazing the kind of London scenes were, and I really thought the Germany kind of setup in this was equally as good in the
that opening shot. You see like I think the camera, almost like it did for Bram Stoker's, the camera kind of comes down into the street level, and you just see this German street littered with people, and the level of work that goes into something like that, you can really appreciate it. It doesn't look like a set. It looks like a lived-in, village from the times of yore.
So just as a comparison with Dracula, obviously that was all filmed on like stages and everything like that. At the time, obviously they didn't have like CGI technology, and they didn't really want to use it either. Whilst in this film, everything looks so grand, and I don't know how much of it was filmed on location. I think a fair amount probably was. Certainly some of the exterior ones. Maybe the town, city type bit was a bit more difficult, but it definitely has that kind of, as you said, that incredible feeling of actually being there in this place.
There's a real rawness to this. Like Smith, I think Smith, the word he used at the beginning of this is perfect. Like when you see the castles and the settings, except for when it's obviously, the lighting plays a big part. But when we're in, Nosferatu's Count Orlok's castle, it feels so cold. It feels like damp and like
awful. And even to be fair, when he journeys across into the mountains, to me that felt like Game of Thrones, like the North. It was like the snow and the kind of.
I've never seen it. Sorry,
but you probably could,
I know. Like
imagine.
I can imagine Game of Thrones.
You can imagine snow and the mountains, but even the desaturation and the it felt. Like if you watch this during the day with the curtains undone, you need to shut the curtains to see the TV screen. It was almost like it all felt so.
I was worried at the start that it was going to be a bit too. What do you call it? Almost like it's going to be just dark and like darkness and dark. But thankfully, the film doesn't. Obviously, and I know you have to play that you have to have that kind of theme with a movie featuring Dracula or Orlok. But I was worried it was just going to be like that throughout, like very dark and but I think it creates a nice balance throughout the movie. It's not always dark. You get like the comparisons, obviously with the scenes in Germany. It's all very for the most part well lit, if not a little grim.
Well, I would just say quickly, like just again, sort of going back to the setting and the style and everything, the exteriors of Orlok's castle were actually filmed at a place called Hondoria Castle, which is also known as Corvin Castle, a Romanian castle located in Transylvania. And it's like one of the largest medieval castles in Europe. Did you go there, Smith? Didn't you go to near Transylvania?
We went to Transylvania, yeah, absolutely. I
remember you came back and you had all these like red blood stains on all your shirts. I don't know quite what was around the collar.
That's why I can only do the podcast in the evening.
And he came back with it. Remember, like for a few weeks he did that funny accent. He was like, I saw bloody devils and stuff like that. All right, Smith, chill out.
Was that Anthony Hopkins just joining the pod?
Talking of the accents, that was a point I was going to make up actually, because obviously it's set in Germany, so you think they speak German, but they talk Old English, so it's not just English.
It's very weird.
Shakespearean English. So.
And when they go to the Roma gypsy village, they all speak Romanian. Yeah. It's like we speak English everywhere except in Transylvania.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? I remember there was a film that came out, maybe about 20 years ago, Tom Cruise movie called Valkyrie.
Yes.
I remember that. I never saw it, but I remember that got like a lot of negative press because it was, I think they were Germans. It was set maybe during World War II.
Yeah, it was Germans who turned on Hitler basically and they wanted to assassinate him.
Oh, it was that story, right? Okay, but they all spoke like English, and obviously with American accents.
They did the same with Chernobyl, which was obviously all set in Ukraine, and they all spoke very posh English.
It's a tricky one, isn't it? It's a really weird thing as a filmmaker because you think, well, I want to appeal to a bigger audience, and it's fair to say by doing an English-speaking film, you're going to do that.
That's why, right?
But it's, and if you put an accent on everything, if Nicholas Hoult is there doing a German accent, it would just feel weird because it's like
it just wouldn't work, would it? It'd be like Kevin Costner in bloody Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like he tried to do an English accent. They were like, just do your American one, it's fine, and they just kind of go on with it.
Keanu, yeah.
Well, this is very true. Yes.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky you have to get a balance. But I think if you
but you kind of forget it quite quickly. To be fair, because it doesn't. Although it's kind of set in Germany, I think it's doing that just to stay true to the original story.
Yeah, agreed.
But they didn't really need to set it there. They could have set it wherever they wanted. They could have set it in London. But
especially with Nicholas Hoult and Aaron Taylor being both English.
It is strange that they didn't deviate away from that original story a little bit. But anyway, it kind of works fine. And like you say, the gypsies that we meet all talk Romanian. And some of these scenes with the gypsies I thought were really good because they're it reminds him that he's in such a foreign place straight away and he's not even there yet. And some of those scenes where he can't understand them, but he knows something's up. They're warning him. It's done really well.
Well, yeah, that specific scene when he first walks into the camp and they kind of look at him like a crazy person. Apparently that was filmed with actual sort of locals. It wasn't sort of necessarily actors and extras.
Oh, wow.
I think they had to do it like 30 times because obviously when you don't have trained actors, sometimes it can be an issue. But I just felt like it was so intimidating. And obviously he's quite a tall chap anyway. And he always stands out and he's obviously got like clean outfit on. And you've got these people kind of more in like a campy, small little outskirty village. And it was really, really striking, that scene. I think it was done really well.
Yeah. Again, like talking about that scene, the lighting, we go from that kind of cold, like Smith said, the journey to the location. It's all very cold, and then suddenly you've got the fires of the Romanian village, the only thing like lighting it, the torches and stuff. It's just like, oh wow, this again, it's a film that really kind of celebrates the environment with lighting and mood and stuff.
There's one shot in particular, just on that, where he's walking down like a forest path and it's kind of like a big wide, and it's so isolated. And I think he gets to like a crossroads or something, which is so symbolic. With the horse and cart approach. Yeah, exactly. To take him, that's kind of after, I think. But yeah,
I was going to say it's funny with prior to the Romanian village scene, before he gets there, he's in the place, and the man who we later find out has been kind of what do you say, like possessed, corrupted by, seduced. Yeah, seduced is a good word. Seduced by Orlok, kind of sends him. You've got to go to Count Orlok's castle. He's too infirm to travel, I think is the word. So Nicholas Hoult is like, okay, and I'm watching that thinking like, oh yeah, this is literally the same film I watched a short while ago. So it sounds silly, but just because the staging, because obviously you're telling the same story, and granted these films are decades apart, but when you watch them mere weeks apart, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm kind of watching the same film.
That story, I feel like that story's really well known anyway, obviously just from like the book, of course, the original book, and then a bunch of adaptations that have been made, or TV shows, and all sorts of stuff that's been going on for a long time. But because I've never actually seen the original Nosferatu, obviously I know the story from other films and everything else like that. I didn't realise quite how matching it was. And it's one of those things where if you see the same story over and over again, it's like watching a Superman or a Batman or a Spider-Man. It's like, how many times can you reimagine the same story?
Or Charles Dickens Christmas film.
Absolutely, Christmas Carol or anything like that. Absolutely. It's really interesting when you watch a film like that because it's not necessarily going to be the story itself or where it's going that will surprise you or take you down a different path. It's how that story is told, like in those individual moments, or the slight changes, perhaps the different beats. So
did you know you can now subscribe to Off Radar? It's a movie podcast on YouTube. You can watch exclusive trailers and listen to brand new full episodes. All links and info in the description down below.
Somebody stop me!
We talk about him first meeting Count Orlok. Orlok. Who I did, like you said, Bill Skarsgård. So I'm watching it thinking,
you would never know, right?
I think I knew. Like I said, I didn't know the cast. So when Nicholas Hoult popped up, I was like, oh, it's Nicholas Hoult. When I eventually found out it was Lily-Rose Depp, I was like, oh, it's Lily-Rose Depp. Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I didn't know that Skarsgård was in this, but I must have. I must have had like some inkling.
I think
I'm watching it thinking
mentioned.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm watching it thinking I don't think this is him because it looks nothing like.
I thought. Do you know who I thought it was? I thought it was David Harbour from like Stranger Things and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
for quite a long time. I was like, is that him?
Is that Lily Allen's?
Lily Allen's ex, yeah.
Ex. Yeah. Well, I think what's really interesting and good, what they do really well when they meet the Count is we don't get a reveal for so long of actually what he looks like. So
they did a good job with that.
So it's, I mean, the first thing is it's very cinematic, and you know, like the way he opens the door, we see silhouettes like throughout this film, probably more than Dracula, but also we don't see his face, so we see his long fingers and horrible kind of like creepiness, or eyes, big close-ups. We see,
and when we see, like, we nearly see him, he's out of focus in the foreground, and it's just like, okay, that's
and it's kind of like
direction.
From exactly Thomas's perspective, but he's unlit. Like the way they light him is brilliant.
It's really interesting you say that, because like a lot of the promotional materials to this film as well, they kind of tried to do something very similar, that he was purposely hidden from the trailers, all the promotional material. They did like 6 posters for the film, each with a different character on, so like the Professor, Ellen Hutter, Thomas Hutter, etc. And with all of them, the upper halves of their faces are covered with shadow, but their eyes glow. And then with the Count, he's hidden in almost a pitch black shadow, so you can't see him at all, just because they really wanted to create that kind of mystery and intrigue around it. I mean, think about, again, Gary Oldman's version of Dracula was so much different to anything we've seen before, and they've kind of done the same here, rather than it being like a conventional Dracula with the cape and all that stuff. It's more like a Romanian nobleman, like if you could think back to them in like the God knows what century he's originally from. And it wasn't until a few weeks after the film's release that they actually revealed what he looks like online. So literally the only way you could have known what he looked like was either being on set or actually watching the film itself. And as you say, I think so many people were shocked, because not only does he look nothing like himself, and as we've said, we struggled to identify who it was, the style was completely different to certainly what I was expecting. Because obviously, as well, like you go back to the 1920s Nosferatu with like
what I was
the long
expecting.
fingernails and the skull and the big ears, almost looking like a human version of a bat. It's nothing like that.
Well,
at all.
No, I was expecting that.
Yeah, with the original being like the German kind of expressionism around that time, obviously a lot of people felt that it was, you know, like a stereotype of what kind of Jewish people would look like back then. So get the big news and the kind of devil-like, because they were painted as devils. So I wonder if they've tried to step away from that for obvious reasons with this Nosferatu.
I thought it was I thought that his design looked really, like, to see Dracula, which technically was this, with a moustache. I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it's doing Movember.
You know, it's doing Movember. But no,
blood on his tash.
But it felt like I thought like at some point in the film his look was going to change and he was going to be like the one, you know, the original. But I was kind of glad they didn't do that, and they kept him, you know, looking, as Nige said, like a nobleman.
The one thing which I don't know what you guys thought, which I didn't like though, was the voice, because it's,
I didn't mind the voice.
It sounded like what's the Nolan film, Dark Knight. It was almost too far. It was like reverby and cinematic, and no, not that one. The
I am the Batman.
Yeah, exactly. When he does Batman, he's like,
"Where's the bomb? Where's the bomb?
I know who I am now." And it felt like that at the beginning. He breathes really heavily, and it's almost over. I know it's over the top, and I know it's meant to be, but it really stuck out for me when he first spoke. I guess I got used to it as it went on, but I was just like, "Oh, that voice is odd." They could have reined
it's
it back
interesting.
a bit.
Like Skarsgård said, that was the hardest thing for him, like preparing for the film. He actually trained with like a Icelandic opera coach to lower his voice an octave to make it so deep. It's almost like sort of Tom Hardy as Bane and that kind of thing. And he said he spent like 6 weeks prior to the film just recording himself going through it, and he kept doing like these almost like Mongolian throat singing exercises on set. Goodness. I think everyone probably thought he was insane by the end of it, but I'd agree, Smith. Like it. Does it add that much menace to the character? Does it allow you to sort of get into the story? I mean, he's dead, so maybe he wouldn't exactly have a "Hey everyone, I'm dead" kind of voice. But it was a really interesting take, and it sounds like it was something that he, the actor, wanted to do rather than direction. So yeah, it's always a big risk when someone shows up on set and says, "I kind of want to do it this way."
I tell you what was good about again, I'm going to compare this film to Bram Stoker's. Like Bram Stoker's The Dinner Scene, where he first meets Orlok, Dracula, and he's sat there like the Thomas character. It's like, right, I'm here, got to sign the papers and stuff. The Bram Stoker one, I'm not saying it was, it was tense and stuff, but Keanu in those scenes was kind of, I felt at times that he wasn't reacting quite right. Like what made those scenes so magical was the use of shadows, the filmmaking in Bram Stoker's. In this one, I thought Hoult was amazing at conveying that sense of sheer terror, almost like the words are kind of trapped in his throat, where he's at this thing, and this count clearly has this, even at a very early stage, like power over him, and he gets him to sign the contract without even like properly reading it. And it's just, I really like how and the way it was shot as well. A lot of those scenes, like with the camera, where Orlok would be here, the camera would pan over, and Orlok's suddenly like there. Or there's one bit where Nicholas Hoult is, I think he's sat in the chair at the dining table, then he's next to the fire all of a sudden. And he's just the way they play, again, the filmmaking was fantastic, and Orlok's presence, regardless of the voice you guys have with the voice, the issues. I thought he was like really captivating. It was like, wow, this is a really tense scene. And then we haven't really talked about it much, but then you get those kind of the contrast with the somewhat dismal but still brighter days in Germany with what's her character?
Ellen.
Ellen, with her, and like there's one sequence where she talks about a dream, and she says like, I've never been so happy, when she's talking about holding hands with death and the idea of dying. And I was like, I like the fact that I thought her kind of story throughout was like far more gripping than Hoult's story. And I guess it's the same with Bram Stoker's. Definitely. Again, it's like, this is going to sound like I'm spoiling my review, but Bram Stoker's, I think, is a better love story than this film. Whereas, but this film, I think, does do a good job of, we kind of fairly criticise Winona Ryder to some degree of like her performance in that movie. It kind of served that movie. I think with this, I think Lily-Rose Depp, her performance as this Ellen character is just like, I thought it was fantastic throughout.
Well, the thing we get with Dracula is, we talked about it in depth actually, that we get this kind of intro beginning backstory to Dracula's character some centuries earlier. In this film we don't, so you're right, the love story, I guess it kind of lacks. You don't get it from that perspective. You
don't even really realise what's going on at the very start, do you?
No, you don't.
I also think, in fairness to this movie, it's obviously not trying to be Bram Stoker's Dracula. No. It's not trying to be a love story, even though towards the end of this movie it does become about love and sacrifice. Yeah, perfectly said, Smith. 100%.
Yeah, he's obsessed.
Yeah,
but not in like a loving obsession, in like a, I don't know, like
I want to drink your blood.
Yeah, it's an obsession. But like some of those dreams, like you're talking about, are done really well though. Like with Ellen, when she's seeing like Count Orlok appear and the shadows, I wrote down one thing where he's like, "Your husband is lost to you. Dream of me, only me." That's when Nicholas Holt's about to stab Orlok in the tomb, when he gets out of his room in the middle of the night. He's like, and Orlok like grabs him, and it's like, oh dear. And then the next thing we get is obviously she's going through all these kind of like emotions and no one can really figure it out. So they call the doctor. And I was like, oh, the doctor. He starts talking. I was like, it's Finchy from The Office. It took me a while.
There you go, yeah.
I clocked him straight away, like that voice.
It's just the voice. It's the voice, isn't it? He pops up in this film and he's perfectly cast in it.
He's great in this.
The doctor, almost like, But you're right, like Nicholas Holt's character is, we again, a little bit like Dracula. We get quite a lot of him at the castle. Yeah, and then we kind of switch back to like Ellen, which is exactly basically what happens in Dracula.
Yes, it's how you kind of have to tell this story. Like Nige said, the narrative is always going to be the same. The structure is always going to be the same.
He even falls when he's trying to escape. He falls out because he's into the water.
Well,
it's like that decision to even do that in the film as well. Like they don't deviate as well at all.
Well, just sort of to go back to Finchy, obviously we mentioned like he's the one who's looking after the crazy bloke as well, in like the insane asylum. And Smith, you said there was a bit that you remembered seeing, like with a bird. What was that?
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say that. I think it was the point where the crazy guy picks up pigeon's head and bites it off, and we get this kind of like it's the last person who went and it's basically been kind of he's under Nosferatu's spell or whatever, you know. He's been
seduced,
feeding.
as you said. It's perfect.
And it's not just him. Eventually, more and more people, as he gets closer to Germany, get absorbed into that.
But it I guess it's the first case we see. We obviously see him a little bit earlier feed on Thomas, and that's horrible. And I think some of the like feeding and monster scenes they're done really well, but they're
pretty grim,
aren't they? Yeah.
Well, it's the first vampire film I can ever recall seeing where they don't bite the neck, they bite like the chest.
Yes, that's a good point.
For me was just like, is he can he not see very well? Has he got bat eyes? Is he missed? Like, what's going on?
Did you say, has he got bat eyes?
Yeah, like, I can see in the dark.
Yeah.
Just like I don't know, Dr. What's his name? Mr. Magoo wandering around looking at
my goodness.
But it was just like, but then also that becomes quite sexualised, because if you're doing it with a woman, you're sort of biting them into the breast and all that kind of thing. And it was a bit like, okay, like this is a really interesting way of doing it. And again, I can't remember. I did read a little bit about it, but I can't remember if, like, in the original book, that's how it was done.
Yeah,
well, actually, no. Yeah, I have got a little bit. Basically, he does it because that was the belief in old folklore. Because a lot of people were feeling like they were having vampiric attacks, were having like sleep paralysis or like chest pain, where like this heavy feeling on your chest, like an invisible vampire is like sucking your blood and that kind of thing. So,
what's that famous painting, isn't there, of death, and it's someone laying on a bed with like a demon like on their chest and a horse in the corner. That's like the famous sleep paralysis painting from, you know, many centuries ago. So yeah, maybe there's probably something in that, like Nige said, is that was the fear. But this was the first time, like Nige said, first time I'd ever seen.
No, it's
like,
cool.
oh wow, it seems...
I suppose thinking about it now, though, if you think the scene in Dracula when Keanu Reeves gets like accosted by the three maidens, they're like biting him all over the place, sucking from his wrists, and I imagine they're biting his chest and all sorts. But again, it's just so ingrained into me to think vampire bites the neck.
Also, dare I say, neck is an easier, like when you it's more when like a chest is flat. Well, a male chest, I should say.
Yeah, exactly.
Very sharp teeth to get through all the muscle.
Yeah, you've got a big rib cage there as well, and you don't. You know, whereas the neck is obviously you've got the veins.
Yeah, exposed jugular and stuff like
exactly.
that.
But maybe.
Well, welcome to our podcast about how to exhume blood from the human body.
We're going to bring in a doctor now to discuss the biology.
Dr. Finchy.
Dr. Finchy.
Bloody hell.
And then we get our introduction of Willem Dafoe, who I thought was going to turn up as Van Helsing or something with like a knife and a hat or something. And he was just like, oh no, he's not like some adventurer.
He's a professor. Yeah, he's a bit more. Yeah, exactly. Like with Van Helsing, and obviously Van Helsing has kind of gone on to be this almost like this comic book superhero since. But yeah, with his character in this, he's very kind of straight in that kind of intellectual role. But yeah,
a little bit crazy and like a little bit shunned in like the modern medicine. Well, the modern of the time. Just shunned almost. But Finchy kind of was one of his students. And that's
right. Yeah.
He knows him.
And then we get something that we didn't get in Bram Stoker's, which I think Nige talked about in the review for Bram Stoker's, which is we get the scenes of Orlok on the ship coming over to Germany, and we see that the crew are being, killed and the ship's being taken over. And then when the ship finally docks...
really brutal, just on that neck, on that ship scene where he bites his neck and the blood just spurts out. It's so brutal. And
it's a proper visceral film, this, when it comes to the celebration of the macabre, as it were.
And it's also worth pointing out that Thomas in this story, who Jonathan in the other one, he returns before Orlok in this one, whereas in the other one, Dracula, I think, comes back and he's
hanging out with Winona Ryder long before.
He's like hanging out with her. So we do get Thomas back there to almost save her before.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the big difference with the ship as well is in Dracula, he sort of comes back and he's a very charming man. He integrates himself into society. When Orlok comes over, he brings disease with him. He brings the Black Death.
Rats.
He brings the rats. Yeah. And rats are like a really common theme in this film.
The plague around this time,
of course.
Obviously, that was a massive... part of history over the world. But the fact that he brings the plague, exactly, he brings
death, and like Aaron Taylor. What's his character's name? Aaron Taylor Johnson's character as well kind of runs. He's very rich. He's sort of looking after the Witters, and he's kind of integrated into the story because he runs like all the shipping stuff that brings them over as well. So it's really interesting how there's this little circle of influence of all the characters. So Finchy and Aaron's character and everyone else, and they kind of all get absorbed into this story, and it all centres in on Orlok coming over to stalk her, essentially.
It's really interesting what they do when Orlok stalks her. He gives her, which is a really good technique in filmmaking, he gives her 3 nights or he will basically kill all of her friends. What that gives you as an audience member is like, it's almost like this timeline of her having to... I can't remember what the actual outcome was. What does he give her 3 nights to surrender, basically? Or he will...
Yeah, basically surrender herself to him, yeah.
And, there's some kind of brutal scenes in amongst this. I think when he kills a kid, that was awful. Like,
kills
really,
both of them.
Yeah, the 2 children.
Yeah.
Of course, he kills...
That's one of the most brutal scenes in the film.
Well, because you think, like, I thought he was just threatening them and then the wife would come up and then he would bite her. But it's like, he kills the kids and then obviously...
It's a real surprise. So
they're
sort of spooked a few times before.
Yeah, they keep talking about the start of the film.
Yeah, and then eventually you kind of hear him screaming and she comes running and he's just got them lifted both in the air, and it's like, oh, you can't kill the kids, can you? And
he's got Orlok, he's a baddie.
He's a bad dude.
But there's one scene earlier, I think a few scenes before, where Ellen is talking to Willem Dafoe's character, the doctor, and basically she's talking about
France.
Living with like the visions, and it's such a beautiful scene. I can't remember all the dialogue, but I remember just like being utterly captivated. It's like, he's doing the bedside doctor thing and she's talking, but it just felt so, I don't know, it was like, wow, it was one of those scenes that like really captivated me in the moment.
I've never shared my secret with any soul.
You've had these spells since childhood. Tell me what you can from the beginning.
It is like a dream. It was our wedding. When we turned around, everyone was dead. The stench of their bodies was horrible. Standing before me was death.
Basically, they obviously, very much like the other one, they kind of, led by Thomas, plan to kill the beast. And this is the point for me where I think this is the first time I kind of noticed the music. I think throughout the whole film I didn't really notice.
I didn't really clock it.
The music, like I felt like it was very stripped back, very droney. There were strings, but then towards the end it does start to pick up and become more kind of epic and grandeur in that respect, but only near the end. So when you finish watching the film, you'd be forgiven for not remembering the music whatsoever.
No, one scene again I really liked was between Lily-Rose Depp and Willem Dafoe, was where he basically leads the men on this kind of a fruitless mission, a red herring or whatever. He's like, we're going to go and kill Count Orlok, knowing that Count Orlok, because Willem Dafoe's character,
it's almost
the Doctor,
like a mini twist in the film, really, isn't it?
It is, and it's really well done, I thought, because like he's so well educated in the dark arts, as it were, of this understanding that he knows that Count Orlok's going to visit Ellen, so he's like, his attitude is, well, I'm gonna take the guys with me, so because he goes, you are our salvation.
She's going to be the sacrifice, and yeah.
And it's still incredible though what they go and do, that mausoleum where there's just the tons of rats and the fire.
Amazing,
really like extravagant kind of for this type of film, especially as well, because they sort of get
they find the coffin,
sail down there. Yeah. It's, and like if you think like comparably, the scene with the friend, essentially, of Ellen. So in this film, the Hardings, as I mentioned, they kind of take him in, and you have Anna kind of gets possessed, and then she dies and the kids died. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, you have that big scene where they go and take her out, that's really creepy, where she's holding the child. In this, they're just dead, and then the husband kind of goes to them, and he immediately gets like the Black Death from them and dies in the crypt. And it's like someone who you think is going to be a big part of like the finale, as you said, that misdirection of it's going to be the group of guys go and save the day again. Like, he's taken out early, like a big name actor, a big star, someone who thinks a prominent role, and it does that a few times, whereas I kind of mentioned, it's a story that kind of everyone knows, you expect it to go a certain way, and yet there's these bits where it's like, oh wow, okay, I didn't expect that at all.
Tu captio esta ab tua volia.
I do.
Orlok arrives, and it's like, right, I'm gonna, and she's like pretending to be willing, I'm now yours, Count Orlok. I may be wrong, I'm sure. Like, I watched this and I went back and thought, I think this is, we've talked about how desaturated this movie is at times. I'm sure for this finale, the first part of this finale, when he, I think, ascends the staircase up to hers, it suddenly goes black and white for it feels like a couple of minutes. I might be completely wrong, but it feels like it's so desaturated at this point that it actually becomes almost like, and I thought, is this them paying homage to the original short film from the 1920s? It goes supremely black and white, and then
there's a few bits where it does, definitely.
And then as the sun, like, so they
it's interesting with the black and white though, because it never feels like it's different, because it's you know what I mean, it's like a scene of a staircase and silhouettes, so it just feels part of the film. So it didn't take me out of the movie. I thought like, this is a stylistic choice and it works for what they're doing. But then obviously it's in the middle of the night, or I should say early hours of the morning. No, it's the middle of the night, and then she lays there, and all it's like this kind of odd feeding sex scene with
it's really kind of very uncomfortable to watch. But then an amazing moment where he basically gets a bit too lost and consumed in what he's doing as the sun is rising, and she there's that great shot, that two shot, where he starts feeling the sunlight on him, and she just, that's an amazing shot. It's terrifying, but like, she turns his head and he just roars and slowly bleeds, like all blood starts coming out of his eyes, and it's horrific, but it's like, that is quite the death shot. That's like, he's like,
for me, what's even more horrific is when Thomas comes in and you see his body just laying on
top of her. That's not the final shot.
I think it is, and it's just like this kind of like horrible kind of skeleton almost, and she's.
Well, I think also because he's been like, obviously the sunlight is loaded,
so rather than turning into dust, it's kind of. Into that.
Because Willem Dafoe says, like, they all walk in and they know it's too late, and obviously Willem Dafoe knew, and Willem Dafoe says, like, her willing sacrifice broke the curse, because that's it. It's not just like, I've ended Dracula or Count Orlok. This is like, no, mankind no longer has to suffer from this monster. It's done.
I feel like this might be a good time for some trivia.
Bit of trivs. Nice trivia. It's interesting you talk about the kind of the end of the film and the blood and everything like that, and it was actually supposed to be more bloodier than was shown. It was to the point where, like, he's bleeding out of his eyes, his ears, his nose, like maggots in his back, all this stuff, and the corpse dummy was actually rigged to bleed out in a certain way, but it didn't quite turn out how they wanted to, because it was actually supposed to be rigged that he was bleeding out of his anus as well.
Oh no.
But when they started doing it actually looked very comical, to the point that they literally had to put a cork in it to stop the blood coming out of his butt.
Again, we've all been there.
We've all been there. So I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier the scene with the rats in the mausoleum and all that kind of thing. Apparently they used 2,000 live rats.
Wow. They were actual live rats.
Man.
I'd be so self-conscious of like stepping on one. I'd be like, oh god, I'd be,
I think for some of it they had them like similar to like Indiana Jones and that famous scene with like the cobra. They had it behind like perspex and stuff like that. Apparently they weed a lot as well, so it wasn't the nicest smelling set.
But very good environment.
He said, like, the director said he's got a video on his phone when they were shooting that scene, where there's all the flames as well. So you've got the actors, like William Dafoe's there in like his jogging bottoms, sweatpants, like hanging out. And because of the real flames and the real rats, he's got a bit where in about 25 seconds, William Dafoe says like, fuck 300 times. He's just like fuck, and like was really challenging and just like a terrifying scene. But again, it was very similar to kind of Coppola when shooting Bram Stoker's Dracula. They didn't want to revert to using loads of like CGI or like modern filming techniques. And one of the other areas where you can actually see that, where it probably went unnoticed, certainly went unnoticed to me, was the snow that they used in the film. When it wasn't real and it wasn't computer generated, they actually used a technique from the 1940s where they used frozen potato flakes and crushed them into snow-like particles.
Wow.
He's basically watching a bunch of old movies and was like, how can we do this? What's going to be the way? And it, like watching the old movies, saw that and thought, oh, okay, yeah, we can do this. There used to be a common technique of using like snow candles to achieve fake snow effects, but that was banned due to the fact they emitted toxic gas, which is probably what you don't want to be doing with your famous
actors. Yeah,
and then similarly as well, to get like the moonlit sort of scenes for night, the fact it was like really eerie, they actually filmed them during the daytime. And then in post-production, they would run them through just a computer to remove the red and yellow colour spectra.
Wow.
So that was a little bit more modern technique.
Yeah. Wow, that's still... I mean, like, they often say never shoot day for night, because obviously what that leads to is that very unnatural light. But it works in this film, I guess, yeah.
And then in terms of a bit of the old casting stuff, so... I mentioned earlier that Anna Taylor-Joy was originally cast in the lead role. The other lead role, the one played by Nicholas Hoult, none other than Harry Styles was originally cast. He had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, and then the project was delayed, and then Taylor-Joy had to drop out, and Lily-Rose Depp ended up taking over.
That would have been a huge role for him. Obviously, he's in Dunkirk, isn't he? And he does a decent job in that.
I've never seen him in anything, I don't think.
And he's in another film a few years ago, which was like a love story.
What, One Direction the movie?
No, I think it was... Yeah, I think...
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I've seen him in Dunkirk, but I don't know what else. He was in The Eternals, a film called Don't Worry Darling, a film called My Policeman. I mean, no, I haven't seen him in much. I mean, he's fine in Dunkirk, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think Nicholas Hoult obviously brought something else to it. But Lily-Rose Depp obviously came into it and took the role that was intended for Anna Taylor-Joy. And the director, Robert Eggers, actually said like that she brought him to tears during the audition. Sort of called her like a feral actor, and I think we can see that aspect of her when she does the like possession scenes.
Oh, possession stuff's amazing.
And like when she first came, she was talking to him about all these like Dracula films that she had seen, even some of the more obscure ones, and he said she was just raw and powerful. And he said he wasn't exaggerating. It was like he was in tears because her audition was insane. Like he called her disciplined, courageous, and a feral actor that was amazing. So yeah, like she obviously made a massive impact on him. But the bizarrest bit of kind of like casting trivia was that Bill Skarsgård was originally cast as Thomas Hutter.
What?
Yeah. So
that's really weird.
He was originally supposed to play the Nicholas Hoult role.
That's mad.
And after dealing with like the film's long pre-production, all the changes and everything else, they decided to recast him as Count Orlok Nosferatu instead. So yeah, which I think is potentially much better casting. But I think he could have done a very interesting take on that role. But even Skarsgård said himself afterwards he would never play a role that terrifying again. He felt like he terrified himself, and he'd never want to play someone quite that evil.
Oh wow!
So yeah, and. Just quickly going back to the rats as well that I mentioned. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's quite a divide between, obviously the rats bring the Black Death. There's obviously Orlok changes into rats at points in the film. There's one particular bit that looks absolutely amazing. Meanwhile, Ellen Hutter and Von Franz are kind of always associated with cats. Like they carry I kept feeling like the cats were going to die at one point.
I did. I was like, no, yeah.
So like cats, obviously known as killers of rats. So it's interesting how they kind of did that dynamic. And then in terms of like the last bit of trivia for you. So after filming Wrapped, the director sent Bill Skarsgård's prosthetic penis that we see at one point during the film to Nicholas Hoult as a gift. And Hoult actually said once he got it, he framed it. So he's got his framed prop penis
on his mantelpiece
at home. Yes,
God.
And he said there's a scene where Bill Skarsgård was like slurping his blood, obviously through the chest. And Robert Eggers asked afterwards, "How was that for you?" And Hoult said to him, "I could feel his prosthetic penis on my leg." So that was the gift. It's like, well, if you feel it, you can keep it as a wrap gift.
Dear.
That was it. Rob got it framed as well. It wasn't Nicholas Hoult who framed the penis, but even so, yeah.
Wow.
So there you go. There's your prosthetic penis / Nige's trivia. So,
wow.
We should get that. We should get that with every review.
Yes.
Well, that was there you go. I didn't see it ended like that.
Was all killer, no filler.
So good there.
Where are we at with this film? Do you want to hear Mark's first, or do you?
Go on. Love
give
to.
Us,
yeah.
Okay. First. So, has he done a voice note, or is
no?
this...
Unfortunately, not. Just an email. It's quite short, but obviously, like I said, Mark recommended this, and Bram Stoker, which he, spoiler, he liked a lot. For this one, he has said, "Not much to say on this one. The only thing I remember about Eggers Nosferatu is how it felt like a shot-for-shot remake of Coppola's Dracula. The usual exercise in Bobby Eggers' style over substance. To be fair, I did like the different ending. That voice, though, I haven't read this before.
Oh, he did the voice as well.
A bit like The Dark Knight. Was it verging on comical? So, 9 out of 10 for technical ability. Fairless 5.5 out of 10 as a movie. So...
Interesting.
He obviously really liked the style, but not the substance.
So if we combine that, what's that, like a 7.5, a 7-ish?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're working at the averages, I guess,
Yeah, he says 5.5 out of 10 as a movie.
Yeah.
So that's his overall thoughts. Etok?
It's a weird one, this. I think I'm really fascinated what Nige thinks of this movie. Because I think watching these films back to back, Bram Stoker's Dracula and this one, you can't help but do comparisons. And I think that's a bit of a risky thing, because in fairness to Eggers, the director of this movie, Bram Stoker's came out 3 decades ago, something like that. And it's that thing of but it just invites comparisons. Like Fairless in his review brings up a fantastic thing. It does, as we pointed out in the review, it does at times feel like a shot for shot remake in certain things, or at least scenes, or like you go, oh, that's how they did it then, or that's how they're doing it now, whatever. I thought visually, technically fantastic. So again, I don't mean to keep referring to Fairless's review, but I do agree with him. Like as a technical piece, it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's atmospheric. As odd as this sounds, I just feel like Bram Stoker's had more... Well, I suppose that's because it was telling a love story. I was going to say I had more heart to it, but even from like a filmmaking sense. Okay, so what I like about this movie, Nosferatu, is the visuals. It's got a great cast. I thought Lily-Rose Depp is like the standout in this movie. I thought she was fantastic in all of her scenes. But the film feels a bit too long. Feels a bit dragged out in places. Like, did we need all those scenes on the ship and stuff, and the back and forward? I don't know if this is what I'm so fascinated to hear Nige's review. I feel like my review of this, my rating of this, is dangerously, because I thought so highly of Bram Stoker's.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So I'm probably only going to give this like a 7.
What did you give Bram Stoker's again?
8.
I think I gave it
5 or...
It was. I think it might have been an 8.5 or a 9.
Yeah, I think it was high.
Yeah, it was way up there. Maybe if I hadn't seen Bram Stoker's, this would have got another point. But I kind of agree with Fairless. Like visually, it's fantastic. I thought Lily-Rose Depp is great, but it feels a bit, I don't know, a bit like slow in places. That's really all I can say.
Well, it's fair enough, man.
Yes, I'll be like I said, I'm fascinated to hear you both.
Let's go to Nige last, I think. So I guess for context, if you haven't listened to the end of our last episode, but it doesn't matter too much. Myself and Etok both gave Bram Stoker's a very high mark. Nige gave it quite a low mark, which was a surprise to us. With this one, I know what you mean. It is hard when you're watching them so close together not to compare. However, I did feel like this film despite the similarities, I did feel like it had its, total own identity.
Yeah.
Visually incredible. I thought like it looked so good, and like you say, the cast are really good. I haven't seen Lily-Rose Depp in anything before, but she was great because she's quite understated in it as well, which I thought was really good in contrast.
But when she needs to be overstated, she's amazing.
But when she's kind of under a spell or something, so you kind of like
But
when she's just normal, so it works really well, and I believed that. Skarsgård's, I mean, he's really good. The makeup is incredible, and like you say, all the prosthetics and everything to make him up. But I agree with you, and I agree with Fellas. Like, for me, I felt, and maybe this isn't the intention, I felt so cold watching this. I didn't feel invested enough.
You need to put the heating on, Smith.
I think even if it was ramped up, I'd feel cold, because I felt like there was too much dialogue at times, and I felt like it was too slow. I agree. I felt it was too long. I felt there was, like, forgetting Bram Stoker's for a second, on its own, I just felt like this film, there was something missing, and maybe it was, like the kind of actual story of it was just literally a monster story, and I feel like I've just seen a monster story so many times. Whereas with Dracula, there was more to that, as well as obviously a very, very different visual thing. So I'm going to go for a 6 out of 10. I gave Dracula a 9, I think.
I think you're well up there, yeah.
So, Nige, this is going to be fascinating.
Here we go.
Where this is what I'm really
in. Is it going to be?
So I think I gave Bram Stoker's a 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you gave it a 5.
Yeah. And that was primarily down to, like, I really enjoyed a lot about the film. I enjoyed the kind of, well, go back and listen to get all the details, but the gist was I enjoyed so much about it, but I really just felt Keanu especially, and also Winona, kind of let it down to the point where I just didn't really enjoy it. I think with this film, you've covered some of the most obvious aspects, because they are very obvious. That the technical standard of this film is incredible, and I love the way it kind of made you feel like it was a film that was made sort of 70 years ago. It does it really well. Whilst it uses some advanced techniques, it just has that look and that feel of a really old film that works really well. I do think there are some interesting choices in some of the style, that some work, some don't. I don't think like the kind of costume and the style is as good as Bram Stoker's Dracula, but there's some bits that are just incredible, and you do kind of get drawn into it. I am going to disagree with you guys regarding Lily-Rose Depp. That I didn't know who she was until the credits rolled. I didn't know she was Depp's daughter. And I thought she was pretty ropey for quite a lot of it. And again, it's that kind of, the English accent, the kind of, I'm playing a prim and proper. It was basically the same. Like, Winona Ryder's a fantastic actress, and yet she really struggled in this kind of role. And I feel it's similar for Depp, in the sense, I think the kind of possession scenes she did really well. I thought there was bits where she really hit the heights, but I think a lot of it just didn't really work for me. And then in contrast, Nicholas Hoult was magnificent. Like, if you could have taken him out and put him in Keanu Reeves' role, that would have elevated that film an unbelievable amount. And Orlok, it was menacing, it was creepy, he plays the role really well, but it's also kind of, it just felt so strange for this film. And saying that, though, like, the style is incredible. I do like the fact they kind of deviated from what I expected. Like the ending, as you mentioned, some of the bits earlier in the film as well. Like, William Dafoe's brilliant, Finchy is spot on. I think the acting across the board in this is a significant step up from what we saw in Bram Stoker's Dracula. And it's really weird that, do I think this film is better than Bram Stoker's Dracula? Yes and no. So I feel like the ceiling of this film is lower, but the floor is much higher. And because of that, I think I'm actually going to give this a 6 and say it's slightly better, because it does the majority of it to a really sort of solid level, but it kind of lets itself down in a few aspects, like some of the acting, mainly with Depp. Some of the fact it just drag on, it really does. Like,
it does.
It's like 132 minutes, and Bram Stoker's is like 128, so it's not that dissimilar. But I feel like both of them for me dragged on a bit too much. I think some of it is over stylized, like Fairless mentioned in his review. Some of it's a little bit disjointed, like the scene with Aaron Taylor. I can't get his name right at all. With Aaron Taylor Johnson is like traumatizing, but it just feels so abrupt and a bit strange and doesn't really work all that well for me. So yeah, as I said, like I give this a 6 out of 10, which seems to make no sense because I feel like Bram Stoker's Dracula has more memorable moments and really does hit the high, but it's so let down by that Reeves and Ryder's performance.
What could you be talking about, Nige?
Well, all similar scores there. Mark 5.5, myself at 6, Etox 7.
With Nige says, if you want to go watch a scary vampire film, go watch Monster Squad. That's got one of the best vampires. Actually, watch Near Dark and go back and listen to that podcast.
No, don't go back. Don't watch that.
Because these guys don't have a clue what they're talking about.
So we did do Near Dark. That was our last vampire film on the podcast. Well, there you go. Go watch another vampire film. I think we're going to have a break from them for a little while. But yeah, get in touch. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com. Tweet us at offradarpodcast. Check us out on YouTube. I think we've got lots of trailers and shorts and full episodes going up, and we'll speak to you next time.
Answer this question. Do you prefer your Dracula to have a moustache or not?
Moustache or cape? Which do you prefer?
One or the other.
Or Freddie Mercury style, both.
Imagine if Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury is. That'd be amazing.
Do you fancy sending us a film to review, or letting us know your thoughts on a film that we have discussed? All of your comments will be read out in our end of season leaderboard episode. Email us on offradarpod@gmail.com. Tweet us at offradarpodcast. Message us on Facebook. All links and info in the description down below.
Do it! Do it!